The kitchen of the Sovereign Star wasn't just a place of work. It was a $30 million cathedral of stainless steel, liquid nitrogen, and absolute clinical perfection, floating in the middle of the Mediterranean. As the executive chef, I didn't just cook. I engineered sensory experiences for the world's most powerful people. People who paid $50,000 a night to hide from the world on a yacht that was essentially a five-star hotel with sails. Sterling Vance was the worst of them, a media mogul who had built an empire on taste-making, which was really just a polite word for professional bullying. Sterling didn't just want a meal. He wanted to see a creator grovel at his feet, and for 6 months I had been his target. I had designed a 12-course Molecular Odyssey for his daughter's wedding, a feat of culinary physics that involved custom-built vacuum chambers and a proprietary cryozest system I had patented myself to keep citrus oils at a perfect -40 degrees without freezing the fruit. On the night of the gala, with 200 billionaires watching, the service was flawless. The lobster was succulent, the truffles were earth and gold, and the wine pairings cost more than a mid-sized house. But when the final gold leaf dessert was cleared, Sterling didn't applaud. He stood up, wiped his mouth with a silk napkin, and announced to the entire deck that the food was pretentious, lukewarm garbage. He looked me dead in the eye, his face a mask of practiced boredom, and told me that a McDonald's fry cook had more soul than I did. Then came the real blow. He refused to sign the $400,000 final invoice for the catering and the specialized kitchen lease. He claimed I had breached the quality of experience clause in the contract, and because he owned the media outlets that covered the culinary world, he told me that if I sued him, he'd make sure I couldn't get a job flipping burgers in a gas station. He called me a servant who forgot his place, and had his security team literally throw my custom-forged Japanese knife set into the harbor as I was escorted off the boat in a dinghy. As I watched the Sovereign Star sail away into the moonlit horizon, Sterling's laughter echoed over the water. A man who thought he had just deleted a debt by deleting a person's dignity. He didn't realize that while he owned the yacht, he didn't understand the machinery that made it a miracle. He had fired the only man who knew how to stop the symphony from becoming a biohazard. The fallout was swifter and more brutal than I had imagined. Within 48 hours, every Michelin-starred restaurant in the country had heard Sterling's version of the story, and I was a pariah. I spent 6 months in a cramped apartment, watching my bank account drain to zero while Sterling Vance used my custom-designed kitchen to host the Golden Plate, a televised global event where the world's elite chefs would compete on his yacht. He thought he could just hire a replacement and use my equipment, my life's work, to build his brand even higher. But what Sterling Vance's high-priced lawyers and secondary chefs didn't know was that my cryozest system and the molecular ventilation hoods were linked through a proprietary software bridge I had written myself to ensure the air quality remained sterile during nitrogen bursts. This system required a manual degassing every 48 hours to clear out the concentrated organic compounds that built up in the specialized filters. Without this specific purge, the ventilation system wouldn't just stop working. It would reverse. It would begin to pull the concentrated, fermented odors of every scrap of fish, meat and vegetable waste trapped in the hidden sludge traps of the yacht's industrial disposal and pump them directly into the main dining salon's air conditioning. I had spent those 6 months quietly monitoring the yacht's GPS and its public Wi-Fi logs, waiting for the night of the Golden Plate. I knew Sterling hadn't hired an IT audit because he was too cheap to pay for what he didn't understand. On the night of the live broadcast, with 10 million people watching the gala of the century, I sat in my dark apartment with my laptop, looking at the maintenance overdue red light flashing on my remote server. Sterling was on screen, looking smug in a white tuxedo, introducing the first course to a room full of celebrities and heads of state. He was talking about purity and excellence, completely unaware that the filters in his $30 million kitchen were currently holding 6 months of pressurized, rotting organic matter. I didn't have to hack anything. I simply chose not to remotely authorize the emergency purge. I sat back, took a sip of cheap, cold coffee, and watched the empire of taste begin to smell like a graveyard. The transformation was visible on live television within minutes. It started with a subtle wrinkle of the nose from a famous actress in the front row, then a confused glance from the head judge. By the second course, the cryozest vents began to hiss, but instead of the scent of fresh lemon and sea spray, they released a thick, invisible cloud of concentrated fermented fish oil and sulfur. The ghost of 1,000 meals finally coming back for its due. The high-definition cameras caught the exact moment Sterling Vance realized something was catastrophically wrong. His face went from tan to a sickly, pale green as the stench of 1,000 rotting lobsters filled the airtight, luxury salon. Guests began to gag into their silk napkins. The golden plate became the vomiting gala in real time. Sterling tried to play it off, screaming at his new chefs, but the more they tried to use the stove, the more the ventilation system pumped the foul, pressurized gas into the room. The broadcast cut to a commercial, but the damage was done. The unlivable yacht was a laughingstock on social media within seconds. My phone rang 10 minutes later. It was Sterling, and he wasn't laughing anymore. He was hysterical, hiding in the bow of the boat while his guests fled in lifeboats to escape the smell. He begged me to tell him what was happening, offering the original $400,000 if I just fixed the air. I told him that my servant's fee had gone up significantly due to the hostile environment he had created. I demanded $2 million. One for the debt and the interest, and one for the knives he threw in the ocean, and it had to be a non-refundable wire transfer before I'd even open my laptop. He screamed that it was extortion, but then I heard the sound of the yacht's fire suppression system accidentally triggering because the sludge gas was so thick it tripped the sensors. He realized that if the system didn't stop, the yacht would be permanently totaled by the smell, a $30 million loss. The money hit my account 3 minutes later. I clicked a single button, authorizing a high-pressure, emergency purge, that vented the gas out of the side of the hull and into the open sea, away from the guests. The smell cleared, but the reputation didn't. Sterling Vance was forced to sell the Sovereign Star at a massive loss because no one wanted to buy what the tabloids now called the stink ship. Even after 3 professional deep cleans and a total interior gutting, the phantom scent of fermented sulfur seemed to linger in the very vents he had so proudly showed off. He didn't just lose a boat. He lost his seat at the table of the elite, becoming a walking punchline in the very media circles he used to dominate. I used the $2 million to buy a small, quiet farm tucked away in a valley where the air is sweet, the soil is rich, and the only system I have to manage is the natural cycle of the seasons. Now, I grow my own heritage ingredients and cook for people who actually know how to say, thank you, real people who value the craft over the clout. Every time I see a Sterling Vance media clip showing him looking frazzled in a city penthouse, I just smile and remember that the most expensive meal in the world isn't the one with gold leaf. It's the one you try to steal from the chef who knows exactly how your world is ventilated. Sterling Vance learned the hard way that you never mess with the person who feeds you, or the person who designed your ventilation. That $30 million stink ship is a permanent reminder that respect isn't optional. If you enjoyed seeing justice served on a silver platter, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to join the crew for more daily pro-revenge stories, and tell me in the comments, was a $2 million insult tax enough, or should I have let the boat sink? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.